Joining me now is Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut. Senator Murphy, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So this Title 42 issue, look, this has the fingerprints of all of Congress on it. This has the fingerprints of 2 presidential administrations. So what could be done right now that would give you confidence that the administration can handle this?
So Title 42 is required to be lifted by law, right? Title 42 allows you during a pandemic to stop individuals from presenting at the border and applying for asylum. And now that the pandemic is over, the president doesn't have discretion to keep Title 42 in place. So for all these Republicans who are complaining that the president acts outside of his authority, in this case, they seemingly want him to violate the law and turn people around at the border. The president has not been sitting on his hands like Republicans would allege. The president has been actively engaged in trying to manage this crisis. He has negotiated important agreements with Mexico so that Mexico takes more of these migrants. He has surged thousands of troops and asylum officials and Border Patrol to the border to handle this emergency. And he's put in place a really tough new rule that some, frankly, say goes beyond his authority to say to migrants, if you don't apply for asylum before you get to the United States, we're going to turn you right back around. Now, that doesn't mean that you aren't still going to have a lot of people showing up at the border, because that's just the consequence of having 2 years in which males, single adults, couldn't apply for asylum. But it's just simply not true that the president hasn't done enough to try to be as ready as possible.
I understand what you're saying about the preparation for this moment. But politically, other than introducing a bill on day one, he never talked about it. He didn't lean his shoulder in. Build Back Better was the focus. Everything else was the focus. And look, the Republicans have dirtier hands on immigration. I mean, but the Democrats don't have clean hands on this either.
Well, Republicans have had multiple opportunities to come to the table and pass immigration reform that would fix the problem at the border. And my belief is that while you have a small group of Republicans who legitimately want to engage, the majority of that party delights at chaos at the border. You saw some of my colleagues on Tuesday, as soon as votes were done, rush down to the border to take smiling photographs with the Border Patrol, essentially celebrating the fact that there was chaos, because they believe that there's political gain to be had. Right. So I think Americans know that it's Republicans, not Democrats, that have been sitting on the outside when it comes to fixing our broken immigration system.
Are you supportive of reinstituting Title 42? There's a bill in the Senate that could do that. It's gotten a little more support from Democrats, particularly ones that are on the ballot in 2024, which actually you are too, though not in as purple of a state as others. Would you be reluctantly supportive of that if you thought it was a tool they needed?
I'm not, because that just pushes the problem down the line, right? That just gives you 1 or 2 more years of individuals being denied entry. Whenever Title 42 is lifted, you are going to have this temporary problem of massive numbers of new people arriving at the border. And by the way, Republicans have been castigating the president for not lifting COVID restrictions fast enough. The only COVID restriction Republicans seem to want to keep in place is the one that keeps people that don't look like them from coming into the United States.
Why do you think the economic argument hasn't worked to get Republicans to the table? Because you can, our inflation problem. You can make one case on the free money issue with the Fed. You can make some case there, but the real issue is we have a labor shortage, and it's having an issue on wages. That is our economic problem, yet it has no impact.
So despite my tough words for how Republicans approach this issue, I think there is still an opportunity, at least in the Senate, for bipartisan immigration reform. Maybe not the size of the bill in 2013, but I do think there are a group of Republicans in the Senate who recognize that we have this massive labor shortage everywhere in the country. You see help wanted signs, and that there is an ability to help the American economy by letting more people into the country legally. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see some discussions begin in the Senate in the wake of the House action last week to try to find some common ground on immigration reform.
You think that in a piecemeal direction? It's always going to be piecemeal at this point. The word comprehensive, just throw it away.
Yeah, I think right now you've got to do the pieces that are most urgent. And to me, that's border security, that's asylum reform, and then that's doing something about the dreamers who are here and need some help.
Debt ceiling, it looks like the White House is now negotiating. It's something you didn't want to see. Spending caps are on the table. They're debating between 2 years, 10 years. Are you comfortable with a deal like that? Or do you think if you're going to cut a deal on spending, that maybe tax hikes ought to be a part of this?
Well, if we want to get serious about deficit reduction, then you have to put tax increases for billionaires and corporations on the table. That's why I'm pretty skeptical that there's going to be an agreement in the next 2 weeks. And what worries
Even
me,
a punted agreement for 3 months?
well, what worries me is that Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, even Mitch McConnell have said that if we can't get an agreement in the next few weeks, default is off the table. The only leader who says we are going to light the American economy on fire if we can't get an agreement in the next 10 to 14 days is Kevin McCarthy. And that is deeply worrying to me because there's an opportunity to talk about their really unpopular agenda of cuts, but the time to do that is when we're negotiating the budget.
Would you start invoking the 14th Amendment and start paying the bills now if you were Joe Biden in order to essentially launch the legal discussion about the 14th Amendment?
I don't want to give Joe Biden advice, but I think we should do our job. I think that's a precedent to just absolve Congress from being adults.
I want to talk about the issue of guns. And look, this has been something that you've been working on for quite some time, trying to find small increases in gun regulations or big ones. We saw another court ruling that essentially invoked and said, hey, there's just not much you could do because of the Second Amendment, this absolutist version and interpretation of the Second Amendment. Given that we have a court system, that this is what it's going to be, how do you tackle gun regulation under this environment? Do you go for a constitutional amendment, or do you just hope judges' philosophies change over the next generation?
Right now, the Supreme Court has made it clear, under the Heller decision, which still controls, they say there's a right to private gun ownership, but there is also an ability for Congress to regulate who owns weapons and what kind of weapons are owned. I think we have to continue to operate under that construct, and I really see progress, right? We broke a 30-year logjam last year by passing the first major gun safety initiative. You're seeing Republican states like Tennessee looking at red flag laws, Texas considering raising the age to buy assault weapons. I think our movement is in a position to win. Does it worry me what some of these district courts are doing? Absolutely. But right now, I think our focus has got to be growing the movement and continuing to capitalize on the progress of last year.
But it does sound like you got to do it within the construct of, look, you're probably not going to be able to regulate much having to do with access to the gun by anybody over 18.
Well, listen, if the Supreme Court eventually says that states or the Congress can't pass universal background checks or can't take these assault weapons off the streets, I think there's going to be a popular revolt over that policy. A court that's already pretty illegitimate is going to be in full crisis mode.
I want to put up something from our last poll. A majority thought that President Biden shouldn't seek a second term, and even Democrats, and they all pointed to the same thing. His age and his abilities to do the job. What gives you confidence that he's the best candidate the Democrats can put up in 2024?
So when we broke that 30-year logjam, 30 years of inaction on guns, there was a month in which we were negotiating that piece of legislation. Joe Biden was intimately involved in that process. I talked to Joe Biden probably every 3 or 4 days. He made a bold decision to go to the country and speak directly to them when many of his advisors told him not to. That bill would not have passed with Joe Biden's personal involvement. And so I have seen how effective this president is. And this narrative that Republicans are spinning is just their best argument against him because they can't argue on the merits. They can't argue on the policies that he's passed because he's had one of the most successful policy agendas of any president in their first 2 to 3 years.
Do you think that will translate into defeating Donald Trump?
And what Joe Biden reminds us is that elections are not a referendum, they are a choice. And as you pointed out, Donald Trump is advertising every single day what an irresponsible choice he is.
Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Your perspective with us. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.